Okay, now I have to find 2 of those inserts. Fuck! Welcome back. We're here with the 4Runner. I'm sure you can put 2 and 2 together. The 4Runner blew up. Shit. Long story short, I owned this truck a few years ago, and at the beginning of this year, or I guess at the end of 2024, either or, I can't quite remember, I bought this back. I made a video on it, just kind of documenting how cool this thing is, and then it popped a head gasket. So the obvious choice will be to 3/4 swap this truck or put a TDI in it, which if money was no object, I would TDI swap this truck. And that's not to say eventually I will not do that, but this truck's been sitting since March with the blown head gasket, and I kind of had one of those epiphanies where I was like, all right, it's gonna sit in the yard and I can wait several years until I'm ready to delegate enough time and money to that project, or I can just kind of make the 3-liter work just enough to get by, go camping, do all the stuff that I said I was gonna do as far as enjoying the truck, doing road trips, stuff like that. So 3/4 swap would be cool, but I don't care, I don't think enough. And that is all, of course, assuming that this block is okay, which we don't know yet. Now, I do understand that there's a lot of people that love these trucks, and I would consider myself one of those people, but so far, I am really not enjoying working on this. People say BMWs are difficult to work on, but I would argue that these are much worse, at least so far in my experience here. There are so many vacuum lines, it's kind of ridiculous. I have been humbled by the fact that I've had to label basically everything that I've taken off because it is so foreign territory to me. I'm sure there's a lot of people also that think that, you know, okay, 3/4 swap or TDI swap, not that difficult, not that hard, and also really in the grand scheme of building vehicles is not a lot of money. The thing that I cannot stress enough is that I have stretched myself so thin to the point where I have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 personal projects as far as vehicles go, and that doesn't count my business and the part outs plus the cars that need to be restored for a flip or whatever. You know, there's that, which is the primary reason this truck will not see anything different than the 3-liter that's in here. And honestly, if I have to, I guess I would just go find another 3-liter for this, which I don't want to do, but it's very plausible. All right, before I get too sidetracked and in depth on this, I'm gonna go ahead and give you an overview and give myself, I suppose, an overview of what's going on here, what I've pulled off, just so I have it for future reference, and if for whatever reason you need it, it's here. So there's a bunch of vacuum lines on this side. There's 2 separate vacuum tees. If I can move all this out of the way, there's one on top and there's one on the bottom. And then there's all of these vacuum lines. There's 2 fuel lines, of course, feed and return. You have an EGR that goes here, which needs to be unbolted. There's vacuum lines that go from the EGR over here. I have essentially labeled all of these, like on the vacuum tees, basically what position they go into. Definitely not the most efficient way to do that, but whatever I can do. There is literally so many lines here. I've been a little humbled in this experience compared to working on BMWs. At least BMWs from the same era are not nearly as complicated, which I'm sure if you've never worked on BMWs, you wouldn't believe me, but it's totally true. Throttle body comes off, which is not too difficult. There's just your throttle cables. So you have a cruise control and a, you know, main throttle cable. The main throttle cable connects to this bracket back here and kind of loops around, blah, blah, blah. They come off out of the throttle body like every throttle cable. There's a line on the back. There's a vacuum line on the top that goes to some kind of regulator or diaphragm. I don't know what it was. And then there's a TPS sensor itself. And so far, that's pretty much all that I've managed to get off. You know, there's plenty of other little lines and stuff that I've tried my best to document. Of course, you have to take your air box out. I kind of missed that, but yeah, you gotta pull your air box out. So we're gonna keep plugging away on this and I'll let you know what happens. I'm pretty close to pulling this manifold off, I believe. All right, I'm almost ready to pull this manifold off. But yeah, no 3/4 swap, no TDI swap. Around here, these trucks are pretty popular and it's just very unlikely that I find anything that's cost efficient for me to do. So yeah, that's unfortunately where we stand with that. It is what it is. I'm not gonna whine and cry about the fact that the thing blew up. It has 260 something thousand miles. I really enjoy driving this truck. I think there's something to be said about like an early 90s vehicle that kind of is just cut and dry, gives you what you want. So there's no reason for me to get rid of this, even though it is blown up. And my thought process was, if I do sell it, no one's gonna buy it for what I, would like to give for it if it has a blown head gasket. And if I'm gonna go to all the trouble of taking the heads to a machine shop and everything like that, I might as well, do the head gasket, do it right, and then I can hold on to the truck. Because it doesn't cost me anything to own. I mean, of course now it does, but when it just sits around, it's not like there's payments and, it's non-opt right now. Insurance is like, I don't know, 20 bucks a month, so. All right, so I'm trying to talk and work, so we're kind of going slow on this. Look at that. Manifold off. Okay, let's try this again. Manifold off. Okay, there we go. Hunk of bullshit. So I don't really know what failed, but hopefully we'll find out. Intake manifold's off now, so we can tackle the firewall rear heater core kind of section of things. I have yet to drain the coolant, but that's also because there's probably not any left. We're gonna drain it anyways though and see what comes out. All right, we're gonna drain this coolant or whatever. Oh yeah, there's stuff in here. Fuck. So we did lose a substantial amount of coolant because what just came out of there, aside from the part that I missed, right, little bit, we got probably less than a gallon of coolant that just came out. So I don't know what the capacity is on this, but it's not that. This was super fun to get out. Back towards the firewall, 2 recessed bolts. The one in here in the little hidey hole, make sure you get all the dirt out of there so you don't strip that. That was a close call, but it's out. Gonna move this harness out of the way. Got that heater core block off. Got the injectors unplugged from the fuel rails. There's only 2 little wires that go down on the driver's side, kind of below the engine, which is just the oil pressure switch. And then, I don't know, this is maybe a speed sensor. I just labeled it front diff because that's where I pulled it from. 4-wheel drive or something, I don't know. Oh, I forgot a ground. I'll be right back. I'm trying to be kind of careful with this harness. Okay, I'm not stoked on this, but this is out of the way enough, I think. This teardown's taking a little bit longer than I thought it would, but that's typically how it goes. Got the pulley down there for the crankshaft. Luckily, I bought the new big Milwaukee. I finally upgraded. I know it's not an impact socket, don't worry about it, but I finally upgraded. And that saved the day on doing the brakes on my truck, and now doing this, zapped it right off. Only problem is that gun is way too big for the space between here. As you can see, I pulled the radiator out. Timing cover's off, water pump, pulley or whatever is off. Fuel rails are off. I'm trying to bag and tag as much as I can. And as I said, this crank pulley is about to come off, so I'll probably put the camera down for that. We're getting pretty close, I guess, to at least getting this thing almost torn down. We don't have too much farther to go. All right, guys, it's day number 2, back on the 4Runner. Decent progress yesterday. I'm pretty satisfied with where we got. I was really close to getting the heads off yesterday. However, I got hung up on the exhaust. This was a very smooth sailing project until that point, but that's normally how it goes, right? There's always something. And yeah, the exhaust kind of kicked my ass, and I finally got it sorted this morning. But anyways, I'm pretty sure I left off not that long ago. I got the crank pulley off. I pulled the lower intake manifolds off, and it looks gross in here. It looks clearly like an indication of a head gasket failure. The large portion of this project, I think that people will have issues with, especially if you're in like the rust belt, because I'm in California, right? It's a California truck. This truck has like no rust on it. However, because it gets so hot back here towards the back of the cylinder on cylinder number 6, the driver's side exhaust manifold to like mid pipe connection has 3 flange nuts, which the first one came out perfect. The second 2 started to rotate and then got hung up on the stud itself, almost like the threads were boogered up in there and then they just wouldn't move. There's also a little bracket on the mid pipe that secures it to the truck so the exhaust doesn't vibrate a ton. That little 10 mil, you can't really see it, but that 10 mil sheared off, that's simple enough. Like if it shears or it strips out, you can cut that. It's really easily accessible. Now the ones that I had problems with were probably the most difficult to get to, and I can't find the other one. It shot off in the shop somewhere, but this flange nut, you can't really see it, fucking whatever. The one that really kicked my ass was the flange nuts, and those two, like I said, on the exhaust manifold to mid-pipe connection. They got stuck up on the threads on the stud, and it was a combination of lots of heat with the torch, like making a glowing hot red, plus those little like biting sockets that will drive onto it. Let me show you. These sockets here, I don't know if you can see that. See how they have like some almost like helical cut blades inside of them almost, and that was able to grab that nut. You can see it's pretty rounded off. Actually, it is like entirely round. So with heat and hammering this on this nut, I was able to slowly work them off. Like I said, they got stuck on the stud somehow, somewhere. Something somewhere was just binding up and they just wouldn't go past a certain point, which is where this became necessary. So anyways, those were the only two that gave me problems, aside from the 10 that holds the mid pipe to the truck. But again, that's no big deal. So now from here, I've already removed the timing belt. It's time to, I think, pop the valve covers and try and get these cam gears off. So give you an update when we get there. All right, finally going to remove the valve covers. Hopefully nothing's that tight, shouldn't be. But yeah, gonna zip these off and then we can go for the cam gears, which I'm a little nervous about. Probably one of those, yep, it was one of those inserts. Shit. Okay, now I have to find two of those inserts. Fuck out of the way, fucking bitch. All right, well, that was a mission for sure. Got the heads over here, driver and passenger side. Not too bad. There are two extra bolts that I was not aware of. So there's one on either corner, has like, I don't know, maybe an alignment bolt or something. They both have plastic bushings on them. Oh, this poor truck. White truck, black grease. There's the X pipe that, or the crossover pipe, like I said before, is apparently partially why these fell on the back. So here we are. If you can see, it looks like back here is where it failed. I mean, that's what it looks like to me, but I have to pull these gaskets off and really get a look. As you can see, it's really gross in here. So I have my work cut out for me as far as cleaning all this up. All right, welcome back. We're still here with the 4Runner. It's been about 2 weeks since I've touched this project. I've been doing other things. So anyways, I have this coolant hard pipe, and hopefully you can see all these gaskets look like that one, pretty much. So we're going to clean this area up and replace it. I noticed the knock sensor itself has no pigtail or anything coming off of that, so I need to find out where that's supposed to plug into, and I guess order up one of those. I don't know, this whole thing's a mess, but I did order a timing kit, so I got a Gates timing kit, and so I opted for a Gates belt, but a water pump as well. So that is all there. We're going to probably do the water pump today because I can't do anything else until until I actually strip down these heads. I still haven't. They've been sitting here because, like I said, had other projects and stuff. So I'm gonna get these stripped down today. I still haven't called the machine shop, but yeah, we have our work cut out. I think once the heads are done and they're ready, I can actually just throw this thing back together, and it won't take as long as I'm thinking. But I am going to, while we're here, of course, pull off, like I said, I'm gonna reseal this, and then the oil cooler kind of down by this exhaust pipe is super sludgy. I'm watching someone else's video, and they have a lot of good tips on things to do while I'm in here, so that's what I'm gonna do. All right, new water pump is installed. This is just the Gates water pump. This little hard bypass valve, coolant line, whatever it is, I just resealed that with some Permatex RTV. It looked to be like there was a gasket or an O-ring for that, but I didn't have any, so it's not the first time I've just slapped and lathered RTV on something and made it stay. So we'll see how that goes. Again, that would kind of suck, but it is what it is. We'll see. Honestly, teardown was not that bad on this thing. Like, I don't want to have to do it again, but again, to do any kind of service, clearly you have to take most of it apart. The biggest thing is the head gaskets. Those shouldn't have to be done again. That's our hope. Everything else, you know, somewhat accessible if we pull the timing belt and all that shit off, which no one wants to do. Anyways, there's gaskets on the back here that I'm gonna replace. I'm gonna go ahead and manually by hand just try and scuff as much of this off as I can, all this old gasket material and stuff. And then, yeah, I don't know. There's lots to do still. I'm probably gonna take the oil pump or the oil cooler off too, and we'll go from there. But yeah, new water pump is on. Just wanted to document that.